Right then, welcome back to the channel. Manchester United versus Liverpool tactical preview. What we need to be looking out for and how do we beat them at Anfield this weekend. Now, Liverpool's dream start to the season saw them win their opening 5 Premier League games, and that quickly turned completely 180 on its head as they've now suffered 3 consecutive defeats, seeing them drop down into second. However, it has been almost 10 years since they have lost to United at Anfield. They've got a spooky good record at Anfield, it pains me to say. And I'm not very confident that United can get a win. I think we can go there and draw. We're going to have to be good to do that, despite the form that they're in. But winning there, if we pulled it off, cannot be understated. Now, United beat Sunderland 2-0 in our last home game before the international break to make it 2 wins from 3. We are yet to win on the road this season. The pressure on Ruben Amorim has been alleviated a little bit by that win. It's also been alleviated a little bit, potentially, by Jim Ratcliffe coming out and saying, judge him after 3 years. He's got Matheus Cunha returning from injury. Lammens looks like a decent pickup in goal. Sesko is finally getting up to speed. And on the horizon, we have Lisandro Martinez returning back to the squad. Anfield, however, is a different test altogether. If you're planning a holiday or a trip away this winter, and whether it's catching up with family, exploring a new city, or just escaping for a few days, there is nothing worse than losing signal at the worst possible moment. And that is why I use Senne. And I actually do use Senne. It's a sponsor of today's video. And right now, new users can get 15% off by visiting senne.com/Howson or using the code Howson. That is Howson. And what is it? It is a simple eSIM app that gives you instant mobile data in over 200 destinations. There's no SIM card, there's no roaming charges, there's no hunting for Wi-Fi, just reliable data like you would have if you was back at home, ready the moment that you land. And setting it up is honestly effortless. You download the app, you pick your data plan, you activate it right on your phone. You don't have to queue up at the airport, you don't have to fiddle with swapping your SIM card tray over. You don't have none of that, no signal panic. You land, you get your data, and you are good to go. And if your phone doesn't support your eSIM, Senne lets you know immediately and gives you a full refund. So whether you're jetting off for a city break, heading to the beach, or just keeping connected while you're away from home, Senne makes sure you are never offline. So get 15% off your first plan today at senne.com/Howson or use the code Howson, that's Howson, today. Big thanks to Senne for keeping us all connected wherever we go. So Arne Slot's Liverpool continues to deploy a very fluid 4-2-3-1 formation, a system that underpinned their successful 24-25 Premier League title win and has shown signs of creaking a little bit this season with their newfound signings. They are on that current 3-game losing streak, but they were poor going into that. Even when they won all of those back-to-back games, they didn't look great. They looked like they were struggling despite winning, and that eliminated everybody's analysis of it. You'd be like, I don't think Liverpool have looked great. They're like, they've won 5 out of 5. Why don't you shut up? How about that? Because you would love United to be playing as poorly as winning 5 out of 5, right? Which is a valid argument. But the second that they lose 3 on the bounce, everyone was like, oh, I tell you what, they've not looked good all season, you know. But they hadn't. Now, the system relies on a double pivot of typically Gravenberg and Solobzai, as sometimes it's McAllister. That allows the likes of Frimpong to push up and hold width on the right, basically playing like a right winger. You will then see Kirkes on the left, doing very, very similar. He likes to overlap. Then you're going to see stuff like Salah operating in the half space. Cody Gakpo sometimes drops a little bit deeper on the left-hand side. Their new 100 and whatever million pound signing Florian Wirtz playing as a true sort of number 10, operating kind of in between the lines, getting on the ball, getting on the turn, and trying to put balls into the final third. He's feeding the likes of Isak Etikite. Now, early season stats show that they're very good on possession. They're getting 62% possession. They're also 1.8 expected goals per game. They're doing okay when it comes to the metrics, but they've also seen 12% increase in progressive passes from last season, showing that they're getting the ball down a little bit further. They're pushing the ball into those wingers a little bit quicker. They're getting forward just a little bit quicker. Now, when they lose the ball, that shifts to a little bit of a mid-block. It's quite a high line, but it's quite compact, and it's a 4-3-3 mid-block. You'll see the wingers tucking in. You'll see the midfield going nice and narrow and compact, and they're going to try and trap opponents and push them wide before they start pressing and trying to put pressure on the ball carrier. Now, that's the system that's faltered a little bit, because off the ball, they don't look cohesive. That's the thing where the likes of Wirtz and Isak and Frimpong are not quite hitting the levels that you would expect for them to do that. That's the teething problems. And because they're so possession focused in the build-up, they're starting to struggle under the pressure, a little bit of that. You'll see Kirkev sort of telegraphing his inside passes. You'll see Salah's involvement has been decreased. You know, his touches per 90 are lower than any other prior season that he's had. Off the ball, you're not really seeing the relentless pressing of Solobzai in Wirtz in that particular position, because Wirtz just isn't that kind of guy. So it's become a lot less of a press in a 4-2-4 shape and a lot more 4-3-3 sort of shape, and they're getting bypassed. You're forcing Kanate and Van Dijk into 30% more defensive actions than they've had in previous seasons. That's because the pressing intensity has really dropped off. And you see in the PPDA, passes per defensive action, that's gone from 8.2 to 11.4. It literally showing you exactly where it's going wrong for Liverpool this season, which, as much as it brings glee, they're still better than United. So as much as you're like, we got a chance here, we do, but also they're still better than United. They're vulnerable in the fullback area. Kirke's defensive lapses, or if it's Robertson, even his age, that can be targeted. Frimpong's giddiness to get forward, that can be targeted. They're collapsing late in games, which is different to when they were winning games late and you're by a bit of luck. They are gettable, they are vulnerable, but I still think at home they do have a bit of a juju going on. And as much as I would love to smash the narrative of United not winning back-to-back Premier League games by beating Liverpool at Anfield, I just can't see us doing it this week. There are ways we can hurt them, but I worry for us on that transition because they're so vertical compared to last season, because they are a different team to last season and we are a different team to last season. You can't even look at last season's performance and think that United and Liverpool are going to put up the same sort of match that they did at Anfield last season. Now, star man for them, I think, is Gravenberch. Probably not the obvious name, but I think that if he can get on the ball and have a good game, that can make the difference for them. He's a real good ball carrier. He's very powerful. And he will probably find a lot of space in our midfield. And that could break the game open for us. I believe that if they're going to beat us, it will be because he's got on the ball and dictated play. For United, United's match winner is Mbuemo. And I don't think there's anyone going to argue with that. The in-behind threat of Mbuemo is huge. He's had joy against Kirkes in the past. He can get in behind Liverpool's defence. We can look to flick him in from Sesko. And I think there are a lot of ways that the 3-4-3 can actually exploit Liverpool's vulnerabilities by being vertical. But it'll be Mbuemo that is the absolute key to it. Now, the 11 I've gone for, perhaps not a surprise. We've been speaking about it quite extensively. Lammens in net. You know why. Leny Yoro has to play. If we're going to have any hope against the pace of Liverpool's backline, the times that we do find ourselves high up the pitch, we will need that recovery pace in behind. That's Leny Yoro. Matheus de Ligt's going to have a big game for United. In both boxes, I would say. And then it's not my ideal, but United have to have at least one or two compromised players in this team. Maybe even three. You could argue three. And I compromise with Luke Shaw. And he's going to have a really good game because he'll be up against Mo Salah. Now, this isn't Mo Salah of previous seasons. It's Mo Salah that's less of a threat than he's been in previous seasons, but it's still Mo Salah, and he's still got goals and assists in him. So you've got to be able to be on your business. Mazraoui going there would make way more sense. But I don't want to put Dalot in this team. And Dalot will be in this team if you don't put Luke Shaw in this team. So I'll put Luke Shaw in as part of the back three. That means I can put Mazraoui into that middle line, if you like. But realistically, he's going to be part of a back five. On the opposite side, you go with Dorgu. Again, Dorgu helping Luke Shaw deal with the overlap of Frimpong. Absolutely massive. But also doubling up occasionally on Mo Salah will be very helpful as well. I go with the most combative midfield I can put out, which is Ugarte and Casemiro. He probably won't do that. He'll probably play Bruno. Probably alongside Casemiro. I move Bruno high up the pitch. And either he's on the left or Mbuemo's on the left. I don't actually mind which. They can be quite fluid in this. I'm not overly arsed. I would say Bruno occupies the right half space, if only for when we lose the ball and we go into a 4-4-2 without the ball, that Bruno can tuck in onto that right wing. But you could still make this happen a little bit by having Sesko be the left side of a 4-4-2 and Mbuemo being the right side of a 4-4-2. But it would be fluid. But Bruno and Mbuemo in behind Sesko would finish the team off. That leaves you Ahmad to come off the bench and make something happen. Probably Cunha to come off the bench and make something happen. And perhaps even unfairly being on the bench is Mason Mount. But I don't see a way that all of these are going to get into the same team, because United just have too many players. We are strong in an area that we don't need to be strong, and weak in areas that we need to be stronger. That's just the way this team is. But like I said, there's vulnerabilities that United can exploit by being vertical, by being good on transitions, by having good fluid forward positioning and trying to threaten where they're shaky, which is where Kirkaz and Robertson have struggled in 1v1 duels, but also Frimpong he isn't there. He's a right winger. That was massively evident in the Chelsea game. A compact mid-block, we saw the signs of against Sunderland, could really neutralise where Liverpool will try and overload centrally, force them to play out wide, where you can see Mazraoui locking down probably Gakpo, where Dorgu can do the same against Salah or Frimpong. And I think a key tactic would be quite narrow in our build-up. Allow whoever it is in those number 10 positions, whether that's Cunha, whether that's Mount, whether that's Mbuemo, whether that's Bruno, really sort of have them in and around Liverpool's double pivot. Have 3 or 4 against their 2. And make them move around, because Wirtz gets caught out high. Wirtz does not track back. And Wirtz is a player that, on the ball, is magic. Off the ball, he's a weakness. Let Bruno go high up the pitch and operate as a roaming 10. Let him go and do what he does best and cause damage and run around like a lunatic. His in-between-the-lines positioning could create 2v1 situations. And that's a tactic that Slot's actually historically troubled with. Salah disengages defensively because he's allowed to. Isak's integration hasn't really happened just yet. That's another area that United can exploit. Liverpool are out of sorts without the ball. United can exploit that. But you've got to have to do it at Anfield, where United historically have not been very good. And you've got a manager trying to win back-to-back games. It's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. But we go with hope. I'm predicting a draw, and I'd probably take a draw if you offered it me, to be honest with you right now. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.